everyone, and welcome back. This is 1D Historian, and today we are talking about possibly the most chaotic 24 hours in our fandom. Now, to this day, fans suspect that after Zayn left One Direction, the entire machine just sort of collapsed, and the empire began to crumble in a way that couldn't quite be stopped. The fandom was more or less in complete disarray at all times. Media coverage of the boys basically only ever focused on the drama rather than the music. Things with management were pretty chaotic and unpredictable, and it seemed like the boys in their personal lives were also struggling a lot. And in fall of 2015, as they were setting up to finish their On the Road Again tour, they were scheduled to do a set of shows in Belfast in Northern Ireland, starting on October 20th. On the morning of what was supposed to be their first Belfast tour, a journalist tweeted a selfie of herself and Louis backstage. And a few hours later, in the afternoon, InStyle published an article online announcing the birth of Louis' daughter. Oh! But then almost immediately, the article was taken down. Oh. The fans were understandably confused. Like, was the baby born or not born? And that news kind of overshadowed these weird whispers of rumors that had started in the corners of social media that they were going to drop the perfect music video that day. So going into the concert that night, the fandom was sort of in this state of hesitant confusion. The Wendy's opening act, Jamie Lawson, took to the stage on schedule that night, and everything seemed totally normal. Ordinarily, when One Direction would have a concert, they would come out on stage around 9 p.m. However, both 9 o'clock and 9:15 came and went, and there was no sign of the boys. But of course, it could happen. They're late. And around 9:30 p.m., an employee of the venue came out onto stage to announce,
"Unfortunately, the show tonight has been cancelled. As Liam has been taken ill."
Pandemonium. In all of their years of being run ragged with an insane tour, promo, recording schedule, the boys had never canceled a performance. In the past, there had been occasions where the boys individually could not make the show for whatever reason, whether Zayn had to fly back to the UK for a family emergency, or Louis was ill, or Niall was injured. Sometimes one couldn't make it. But in those situations, the rest of the boys still performed. Totally canceling a performance was really out of character. In fact, it was unheard of. And then things took a weirdly confusing turn when a BBC reporter tweeted out that a couple hours before the concert, he was meant to interview Niall, but was told he couldn't because Niall had allegedly spontaneously fallen ill. Everybody's really worried. Nobody's really sure, who's sick, what happened, why did they cancel the show, what's going on? And in the midst of all of that, the official One Direction YouTube account drops the music video for Perfect. The same night, randomly, out of the blue, with no fanfare or warning or anything. So now we're all reeling from the shock of a canceled concert, concern over Liam and Niall's health, just completely transfixed by this sudden new content, and if that all wasn't enough, a totally unreleased song leaked onto Spotify. So let's sum up. Pick up, come on. Hello. Guess what? Louis had the baby. SOS.
Oh, really?
There was a false alarm, I think. He didn't have the baby.
Oh, really?
They literally just canceled a concert because Niall and Liam are both sick and they might be dead.
Okay.
They just dropped the perfect video.
Oh, really?
And there's a new song. Someone leaked a new song. I think Louis leaked a new song. It's a brilliant song. It's so good. It's leaked on Spotify. Now, to start with, the Louis article was obviously an error. Next, Liam and Niall's illness. Was there a weird boy band pandemic that was rolling its way through the 1D boys? Initial reports had cited food poisoning as the illness that took Liam down, and the next day when Niall and Louis and Harry did a radio interview to explain what had happened, they said Liam had diarrhea. If the boys are eating the same catering, multiple of them would come down with food poisoning if it was food poisoning. But no mention of Niall allegedly being ill was ever made. Now, when Liam was asked by the Scottish Sun in an interview in 2017 about the cancelled gig, Liam said that the illness was actually mental health related. Liam's been fairly open in the last few years about how his mental health was in crisis during the 1D days, and he said that night, everything just got to him. But some fans found this explanation to be kind of unsatisfying because it was pretty vague and also didn't quite explain why the other boys didn't go on stage without Liam to either perform or even to apologize to the crowd. It certainly didn't explain the wide gulf in tone used in the boys' apology tweets to fan, with Harry Styles coming off as almost dismissive of the whole thing Louis Tomlinson coming off as desperately apologetic. Not to mention Niall, whose tone was also pretty dismissive, made no mention of himself not feeling well or having any illness whatsoever. And then a couple members of the mainstream media started reporting that their sources from backstage told them the boys had gotten into a fight and a physical altercation resulting in both a refusal to go on stage with one another and also injuries was the real reason that Niall couldn't make it to the interview and the boys couldn't perform that night. Could that be true?
There was one moment where there was an argument backstage and one member in particular threw me up a wall. So I said to him, if you don't remove those hands, there's a high likelihood you'll never use them again.
As for Perfect getting a random video drop, there was just no recovering from that one. And Home being leaked was handled by Louis almost with glee, as if he was happy that the leak had occurred. Meanwhile, the fandom still had no clue, but we had 2 new songs, so it was sort of okay. There was no sleeping that night. The canceled concert was rescheduled to play just 3 days later, but not soon enough to quell all of the theories and rumors and conspiracies surrounding what really happened that fateful, dramatic October night.